Have you ever observed that there are women who seem almost impervious to the passage of time, as if they carry a special radiance within that outshines their chronological age? What creates this effect may go far beyond genetics or physical appearance. It is not simply about skincare routines, cosmetic procedures, or other external methods of preserving youth. There is something much deeper at work, something Carl Jung would have understood well. The condition of the inner world can influence the way the body expresses itself. What you are about to explore may completely change the way you think about aging and the relationship between inner vitality and outward appearance. The real secret is not necessarily found in what these women do, but in what they cultivate within themselves, a profound sense of spiritual harmony that seems to protect their vitality from the effects of time. At the end of this journey, you will understand why some souls shine while others fade and how this ancient knowledge can also transform your own relationship to aging. Let's get started. The mystery does not begin before the mirror but with the light that radiates from within. When Jung explored the relationship between the psyche and outward appearance, he understood something modern culture often overlooks: our inner world can influence the way we experience and express ourselves externally. Some women seem to possess an unusual vitality that makes them appear untouched by the ordinary expectations of aging. Imagine a woman entering a crowded room. She does not demand attention or rely on artificial charm, yet people naturally notice her. There is something difficult to define about her presence, as though she carries her own atmosphere. Her face may reveal years of experience while still appearing remarkably alive. Her eyes can hold deep wisdom while retaining the brightness and curiosity of a child. This is the image of radiant femininity, the woman whose inner life seems to preserve her youthful spirit. Jung connected this kind of transformation with individuation, the gradual process of bringing the conscious and unconscious aspects of the psyche into greater harmony. As a woman becomes more internally integrated, changes in her outward presence can accompany that transformation. She begins to embody a timeless dimension of femininity, something deeper than chronological age. Within this experience lies the idea Jung described through the anima mundi, the world soul, the invisible connection linking individual life with something greater. These women become increasingly attuned to a rhythm beyond their personal circumstances. Their individual stories remain important, but they no longer define the entirety of who they are. Something more enduring begins to shine through. In this sense, they reflect an ancient mystical idea: our relationship with consciousness influences how we experience time, while our experience of time influences the body through which we live. One quality seems especially common among them: they know how to transform suffering into wisdom without allowing suffering to harden them. Where another person might become consumed by disappointment, they find a way to turn pain into understanding. Consider a woman who has endured profound losses yet somehow retains a remarkable gentleness in her expression. She has not escaped hardship. Instead, she has learned to work with it inwardly. This resembles what Jung called active imagination, the conscious and creative engagement with unconscious material as a means of understanding and psychological growth. Rather than allowing unresolved emotional wounds to accumulate beneath the surface, she processes them. In doing so, she avoids carrying the kind of inner tension and bitterness that can gradually affect her presence, expression, and vitality. The ancient Greeks made a distinction between chronos and kairos. Chronos represents measurable, sequential time, the hours, years, and stages by which ordinary life is organized. Kairos, by contrast, refers to a meaningful or sacred moment, a quality of time in which transformation and possibility become especially powerful. Women who possess this mysterious youthful quality seem to live, at least psychologically, more deeply within kairos. Chronological time still moves forward, but it does not become the foundation of their identity. The journey begins with another crucial Jungian idea: confronting the shadow. The shadow contains the parts of ourselves we would rather deny, conceal, or reject. Many people spend enormous amounts of energy trying to suppress these aspects of themselves. Eventually, however, unresolved inner conflict can influence everything from facial expression to posture and the way a person carries herself. The radiant woman does something different. She learns to acknowledge her shadow rather than wage war against it. She integrates what she once rejected, creating a greater sense of psychological wholeness. In symbolic terms, this resembles the philosopher's stone of ancient alchemy, the transformation of fragmented inner material into something unified and valuable. When internal conflict no longer consumes so much psychological energy, that energy becomes available for growth, creativity, and renewal. The face becomes more relaxed. The eyes appear clearer because they are no longer constantly reflecting unresolved battles. The body carries itself with authentic confidence rather than forced performance. But there is an even deeper dimension to this process, one connected to the way we experience time itself. Jung's concept of synchronicity suggested that meaningful coincidences can reveal connections that cannot always be explained through ordinary cause and effect. The psyche, in his view, does not necessarily experience reality according to the same straightforward timeline that governs clocks and calendars. Women who cultivate this unusual spiritual quality often seem to step partly outside the pressure of ordinary time. They develop what can be understood as an observing awareness, a part of consciousness capable of witnessing everyday emotions, conflicts, and changes without becoming completely consumed by them. Because of this inner distance, they can observe the aging process without allowing it to become their identity. They recognize that their bodies change, but they do not reduce themselves to those changes. And paradoxically, when aging is observed consciously rather than feared unconsciously, its psychological power begins to diminish. They age as participants, not as victims. This connects with what Jung described as the transcendent function, the psychological bridge between consciousness and the unconscious that allows genuine inner transformation to occur. Through this process, a woman can develop a relationship with time that feels fundamentally different. She still grows older physically, but her development follows the rhythm of her inner life rather than simply submitting to the relentless passage of years. Perhaps you have encountered women who seem to possess an almost timeless quality, making you wonder about their actual age. They carry themselves with a dignity shaped by years of inner work. Their wounds have become sources of wisdom instead of burdens that drain them. Their laughter seems to rise from somewhere profound. Their silence communicates tranquility. Their presence can awaken a sense of wonder, as though they are connected to something deeper than ordinary experience. Modern science is beginning to explore aspects of what Jung intuited decades ago. Research into epigenetics suggests that psychological states can influence biological processes and gene expression. Persistent stress can contribute to accelerated biological aging, while healthier states involving calm and positive emotion may support the body's ability to recover and maintain itself. Even telomeres, the protective structures at the ends of chromosomes that are often studied as indicators of biological aging, appear to be influenced by long-term psychological and lifestyle factors. Jung's concept of the collective unconscious offers another symbolic way of understanding this renewal. These women seem connected to timeless archetypal patterns of femininity, wisdom, creativity, and transformation. That connection can create the impression of a kind of biological grace, an inner vitality that seems to express itself outwardly. The woman who remains deeply connected with what Jung called the self, the archetype representing psychological wholeness, may experience greater inner balance. Instead of being permanently governed by stress, fear, or emotional conflict, she cultivates greater equilibrium. Her emotional life becomes more regulated, her relationship with herself becomes healthier, and her body benefits from the stability created by that inner harmony. In this sense, peace of mind can contribute to the preservation of physical vitality. This is not a claim that consciousness magically stops aging. Rather, it reflects the broader recognition that psychological and physical processes are interconnected. Jung viewed the psyche and body not as completely separate systems, but as different expressions of a larger whole. Changes within one can influence the experience and functioning of the other. Jung also described what he called the religious function of the psyche. He was not necessarily referring to organized religion but to the human capacity to experience life as meaningful, sacred, and worthy of reverence. Women who cultivate this awareness often develop a different relationship with their bodies. Instead of treating the body merely as an object to be judged, corrected, or displayed, they regard it as an important vessel for consciousness and experience. That reverence can influence how they care for themselves and how they move through life. The radiant woman also understands the importance of what Jung described as the art of letting go. She recognizes that certain identities, relationships, beliefs, and emotional patterns eventually reach the end of their usefulness. Instead of desperately holding on to them, she allows them to disappear. She understands that every major stage of life requires a symbolic death and rebirth. Old versions of herself must sometimes be released so that something new can emerge. She moves through these transitions with acceptance rather than constantly fighting reality. While some people accumulate years of unresolved emotional burdens, she practices conscious release. She keeps what contributes to her growth and allows the rest to fall away before it becomes a permanent source of bitterness, tension, and exhaustion. This principle also applies to social expectations and external identities. Jung called the social mask we present to the world the persona. Problems arise when a person becomes so identified with that mask that she forgets who she is beneath it. The radiant woman does not reject her different roles, but she does not become imprisoned by them either. She wears them lightly, adapting to the circumstances of life without confusing them with her essential identity. Within her psyche, Jung's concept of the eternal feminine can be understood as another symbolic representation of an inner principle that continually seeks renewal, creativity, connection, and psychological growth. Rather than becoming rigidly attached to a single definition of womanhood or a single stage of life, she remains adaptable. She discovers a path beyond the apparent oppositions of youth and age, beauty and decline, and purpose and emptiness. She does not need to wage war against time. She develops a relationship with it. There is something about her presence that can make others feel as though time has temporarily lost some of its weight. She seems neither frightened by aging nor obsessed with defeating it. Jung might have recognized this quality in the archetype of the wise woman, not simply an elderly figure, but someone whose accumulated experience has developed into living wisdom. These women deepen their relationship with the unconscious and with the timeless feminine patterns that continually renew themselves. Their unconscious life also provides a counterbalance to the rigid demands of the ego. Through dreams, intuitions, emotions, and subtle perceptions, the unconscious continually challenges them to remain aligned with their authentic development. This prevents psychological stagnation. Ultimately, their unusual vitality can be understood as the result of integrating many of Jung's central ideas. They embody what he called the union of opposites, the reconciliation of masculine and feminine qualities, the acceptance of both light and shadow, and the ability to hold strength and vulnerability at the same time. This inner integration resembles a form of psychological alchemy. Conflicting aspects of the personality are no longer constantly fighting for control. Instead, they begin contributing to a more complete sense of self. Their faces can then appear to reflect something deeper than physical symmetry. They become expressions of inner coherence and wholeness, the qualities Jung associated with the self. The brightness in their eyes seems to come from having reconciled different parts of their personality rather than from physical perfection alone. Their relationship with suffering reveals this transformation most clearly. Where pain may leave some people permanently hardened, resentful, or emotionally exhausted, these women attempt to approach suffering as psychological material that can be understood and transformed. They recognize that wounds can contain the possibility of healing and that crises can become openings into greater awareness. The radiant woman develops what could be called emotional differentiation. She learns to distinguish between feelings that need to be experienced and processed and emotional patterns that merely keep old suffering alive. She can feel deeply without becoming consumed by what she feels. She can cry without losing herself in despair. She can experience anger without allowing it to dominate her entire inner world. This emotional maturity may also support healthier physiological functioning, particularly because prolonged psychological stress is associated with biological processes that can negatively affect the body over time. None of this means that she escapes suffering. She does not pretend pain is unnecessary or try to remain positive at all costs. Instead, she learns to remain present within difficult experiences. Jung referred to this capacity as the tension of opposites, the ability to tolerate uncertainty and contradiction without immediately rushing toward an easy answer. Rather than fleeing every uncomfortable emotion or desperately grasping for control, she allows difficult experiences to unfold while remaining grounded. That capacity can reduce the psychological fragmentation created by constantly resisting reality. Her nervous system can become more capable of returning to equilibrium after periods of stress, supporting the broader physiological balance associated with healthy regulation. The harmony between emotional state, breathing, heart activity, and nervous system regulation has also become an area of modern research. The underlying principle is simple: psychological well-being and physical functioning are deeply interconnected. In that sense, inner peace can become a form of nourishment for the body. But perhaps the most fascinating quality of these women is their relationship with the future. While others desperately cling to youth or become frightened by the passing years, they develop something Jung described as perspective thinking, the capacity to recognize that every stage of life contains unrealized possibilities. They do not see the future merely as a countdown toward decline. They see it as another invitation to become. And that may be the deepest secret behind their timeless radiance: they are not trying to remain who they once were. They are continually becoming who they have yet to be.